All right, welcome to Behind the Fox. Our latest episode is about St. Charles and about tourism. So you know the downtown, you know the restaurants, the Arcata, the river, the trails, the historic Baker Hotel. But behind all that is one organization that is working day in, day out to bring tourists to St. Charles, and that organization is the St. Charles Business Alliance. Today we're here with its executive director, Jenna Sawicki, and we're going to talk to her about all things St. Charles and also about Springfield, because we're both from Springfield. I don't know if you knew that.
Gosh,
Yeah,
I didn't
Jenna,
know.
welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this is fun.
So we're going to get into all the good stuff about what is the Business Alliance and what it does for the community and some upcoming things that might be of interest to people in the Fox Valley. But I first want to get into your background. So, you and I have known each other for a little while now, but I did not know you were from the Springfield area.
I am born and raised. First 18 years of my life, I was down there.
Wonderful. So I grew up in Petersburg.
Oh yeah, not far.
I know Springfield very, very well. And then you went to Carbondale,
SIU.
Southern SIU.
Uh-huh.
What brought you up north?
I graduated in 2009, which was like a great time to try to find a job. Just kidding, it was horrible. I just wanted a job. Most of my friends were either going to grad school because the job market was so terrible, or bartending, honest work. But so I felt very lucky. I got a job right out of college at Wells Fargo Financial, and I was doing cold calling sales, talking to people about their finances, at a time that people did not want to be talking about their finances. So I made my way up here right after college. I rented a U-Haul and moved up here, and I've been up here ever since. So yeah, it was a job. I came right after college, and that bank, or that part of that Wells Fargo Financial, folded into the bank, so everyone lost their job a year later. And then I worked at ALE Solutions, which is a St. Charles business that many people know and love. And I think I was their 100th employee, and I think they're now at 300, 400 employees now, and just continue to grow and thrive. And then I slid into the marketing position at which was the partnership. At the time, and that was 12 years ago, 12 and a half years ago.
So when you first came up here, because when I came up, it was for law school. So there weren't very many places. Although Southern had a law school, Northern had a law school, Champaign had a law school, but there weren't a lot of places for law schools besides the city. And so you kind of thought, I want to be a lawyer, I got to go to the city.
Yeah.
But you're coming from Springfield and then Carbondale.
Yeah.
Was it that you literally got a job in the St. Charles area with Wells Fargo, and that's why you came?
That's exactly why. It was so funny because I was an athlete. I swam in college, and so I think their formula was to hire athletes because it was sales, and they thought, they're competitive. Unfortunately, I'm probably more of a docile, competitive side. Maybe I'm competitive with myself. It was an individual sport, so I don't think I quite had the giddy up and go that they wanted of cold calling sales, but that was their formula, was to hire athletes. And there's a whole class of athletes and trying to call people and talk about car loans and home mortgages. And it was, a bunch of 21-year-olds trying to slug it through it. But yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, I came up for a job, and it was quite very different from Springfield to Carbondale, then up to the suburbs. It was quite a very different experience for me. I remember thinking, when you're in Springfield or Carbondale, when there's a town, there's usually a cornfield between a town. And then you're in a different town because there's a big cornfield in between, or several cornfields in between. Up here, you just run into town to town. And I just remember being like, am I still in Oswego? I just thought, this is the biggest town ever, not realizing that you just drive into another town without there actually being a break. So those are some of the funnier, more interesting, silly things that I had to get used to when I moved up here.
Well, and the change over the last 12 years has been phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So when you went into, you said the marketing position, right? So then where did you go from there?
So I was in marketing and development was my title at the time at the partnership. And I had our director at the time, her name was Lynn Schwartz. She was wonderful. And she'd really taken the time to build up the organization and kind of gone from here to here. And really made it really well organized. And then she stepped out, and I was 27 or maybe 28 and very nervous. But they were like, we're going to name you interim, and then we'll see how it goes, interim director for a little bit and see how it goes. And I was like, huh? Because I was just kind of felt very fresh still, a year and a half in. And I was so lucky to have the board saw something in me and really took the time to develop me. And everyone on the board at that time, sunk so much time. These are all volunteers on our board, so they sunk so much time into me to get me up to speed, to bring me into that director position. And then I think about 6 months in, I got named director, and so I've been the director ever since. Then that was the partnership, and then in 2019 is when we became the alliance, and I kept the director role, and I was lucky to keep that.
We're gonna get into more of that, but I'm still gonna gnaw at this Springfield to
Sure.
suburb
I can't
bone
wait.
a bit more. Okay. So Katie and I have always said, being from people from outside of the Tri-Cities, that when we come up here, we came up here really because we got married here, but we're still living in the city and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We kind of viewed it as all one town. You
Yes.
know, you kind of get between St. Charles, Batavia, and even a little bit of South Elgin and North Aurora. It's just kind of one community. Now, people who are from this area don't view it that way.
Yeah.
They recognize where those cornfields are in between city streets, right? How did you view it then, and how do you view it now? Is it different?
I definitely, when I first moved up here, I felt the same way as you guys did. Like, it's like the Fox Valley, how marvelous is it? And I think the average bear probably feels the same way. I think it's people that are involved, start when they get volunteering, when they're maybe involved with local government in some capacity. I think that's when you start to see like, oh, there's a difference, or there's like, there's a slight maybe competitiveness, but not really. Just maybe something that people compare. But gosh, are we so lucky that we have so many amazing towns and cities in the Fox Valley in general. And it's so special. And everyone has kind of their own vibe and own specialty. And, you go like St. Charles, like we have such an active like nightlife and things to do and eat. And I think that's why people come to St. Charles, is to like be entertained, and our parks and all the things to do. So I think, yeah, I felt the same way as you guys did. Like it's, I feel now very much like I know the borders. I know the exact like ordinances and all the things in St. Charles. And I kind of know the ins and outs of what, other communities and what they're doing. But yeah, there's once you're in the sauce, you sort of know a little bit more about that, like the borders.
Absolutely. So can you tell us more about the Business Alliance? Because a lot of our people, that's who we call our listeners, our viewers. Can you tell us more about what is the Business Alliance?
Yeah, so we're a 501c3. We're an arm of the city of St. Charles. So we merged in 2019. We started the process though in 2017 when I had a newborn at home. My oldest River was like brand new, and they're like, "We're doing this," and I was like, "Cool, I'll get back from maternity leave in 6 weeks." But it was like a year and a half of, like I said, working with that board at the time, the two boards, the CVB board and the partnership board at the time, and like merging these two entities and going through budgets and lawyers and all sorts of stuff for many years. And then in 2019, we presented to council about having this one entity that was basically a CVB and a downtown organization, and able to kind of sing from the same songbook. I think there was a lot of sort of hiccups with like marketing slightly differently, having different brands that we were like, I remember at one point, the downtown partnership had an ad in a magazine next to the CVB, and there were two ads next to each other, and they were both St. Charles ads, but one was like, naturally charming. And then ours was like, come see how exciting our downtown is. And we were just like not speaking the same brand. And so even Ray, who was the mayor at the time, and Mark Keenan, who was the city minister at the time, they kind of had this vision of like, let's have one group we're giving money to, one group that like we're, directing to for our marketing, for tourism. And we kind of made this, we merged the two together, and we act as a CVB, we act as a marketing arm, and we do all the events for major events for the city.
So great explanation, but all of our people are gonna be like, what's a CVB? What's a this? What's that? So let's give them some of the background, Jenna. Let's test your chops here a little bit, okay? So what is a CVB, or what is the CVB?
It's a Convention and Visitors Bureau. Typically, most communities will have a CVB that will work with hotels. They'll help bring in groups, hotel groups. They could work with sports groups. They could work with wedding planning. Our major function as like a CVB was also to work with the Q Center, which, if you guys know, the Q Center is this amazing 90-acre property that we have in St. Charles. It brings in corporate training from all over the world, and that brings in a lot of hotel motel revenue for the city. And so that is one of our major players. But we work with all of our hotels, from what you mentioned before, Hotel Baker, which is right in the heart of our downtown, to all the chain hotels as well. And that's what a CVB typically does, is they really work on the tourism and drawing people in, working with the hotels. They're typically funded through a hotel motel tax. as well. And then a downtown organization, which we were, or a main street, like Batavia has like a main street. They typically will focus on a very specific area. For us, we have an SSA, which is a special service area in the downtown. And the businesses inside that area basically decided to tax us. And those taxes will go to a group specific that will bring in marketing, will bring in events to then hopefully highlight their businesses and get people to come back. So that's actually how we're funded. We're funded through the 3 ways for hotel, motel, SSA, and then whatever sponsorship we bring in. But yeah, so we basically merged those 2 together to, like I said, kind of sing from the same songbook, market the same direction, have one voice to sort of sing. And it's interesting, we get calls from time to time from other communities being like, how did you guys do this? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like, it's like why I don't remember junior high. It was hard and like daunting and like we put our foot in the gas and kind of went. So.
And I think sometimes you block it out after,
totally.
Like childbirth.
Yes, it's like childbirth. Like it was fine. I don't remember. It happened.
I got through it.
Yes, 100%.
Well, but so when we say childbirth, usually when I talk to her, I'm like, well, yeah, but something you don't want to do again. And she's like, oh, no, I do it again,
That part I would, having a baby, sure, that would be great. But someone else could do it.
Yeah.
That would be okay.
I like the age where they're like, like house plants where you just hold them and then they're not moving. It's now when I have a 5 and 8-year-old when they are constantly moving, and I have 2 boys who are like very physical and like every morning like somebody's hurt and I'm like, I just don't want to go to the ER today. So yeah, that part's hard. But
Are they hurt or are they injured, Jenna? Because I always tell my kids, you really haven't had a childhood until you broke a few bones.
I think there's usually like, I think that's like a part of like a childhood is like you have to have a kid who has like that cast that everyone signs, and
absolutely
we have not had that. We've had a couple ER trips, couple stitches, but no full broken bones yet. So.
You have plenty of time ahead of you, and 2 boys, yeah, for sure. So with the Alliance. We're talking about businesses really that are going to be in St. Charles, in the geographic.
Absolutely. We are very like St. Charles proper. And sometimes that does hurt, like, kind of break our heart. Sometimes we'll have a business that reaches out to us that might be like, unincorporated or something like that. And we, unfortunately, because of the way we're funded, we can't market them. We can take sponsors from outside of St. Charles, but for like events. But if we're marketing, if we're putting them in our blogs, our podcasts, if we're putting them in our newsletters, social media, anything like that, they have to be St. Charles proper. And it makes sense. They pay, they're paying the taxes to be there.
Now, you talk about the SSA. Can you give our viewers, our people, a little bit of an idea? Like when we're in St. Charles, we talking about Main Street, First Street, other places? Where are we talking?
Yeah, so it's basically like I always like to say the parade route. So if you are familiar with any of our parades, it's basically like the top of the hill by Lincoln Park, kind of like 5th to 4th. And then as far as wide, it goes out to like where Jalisco's Tacos is, the pond over that way, and then over past, right past where Whole Foods is. And kind of a blob in that way. We have it printed in a very large format in our office so that when businesses call us and ask if they're in the SSA, because we have some grants that you can qualify for if you're in the SSA, we are like, okay, is it here? And there's some people that have opted out, like the Brownstones have opted out or a couple other places that have opted out. But anyway, so we have to make sure and able to give those grants, they have to be in SSA proper. And just to make sure that we are supporting the people that are paying into the taxes.
Well, you mentioned the grants. So what types of grants are there that businesses in the SSA could apply for?
Yeah,
what do they do?
One of our Business Development and Sales Committee, which is a volunteer group, it's like a great group. They have a grant that is called the Storefront Improvement Grant, and it is basically signage or anything that makes the front of your building, your walkway, lighting, anything like that look better. And it's because downtown is really the hub, like the heartbeat of St. Charles. So we basically will give it's a matching grant up to $1,000 for a new sign. So it's a lot of times it's new businesses, but we'll also do it for businesses that have been there forever and maybe the banner ripped or weather happens, and we have just a really simple form you have to fill out, which is hard for some businesses, but also it's one of those forms that I've had to update probably 18 times since I've been here because there's so many caveats that you don't realize. Somebody bought a building, but they have 2 businesses. Do both of those businesses qualify, or do you give it one per address? And all these little caveats that have been worked out over time. But Yeah, that's our major one. During COVID, we gave out a grant for businesses to like a reopening grant that we took some of the money that we had in our reserves and gave money back to businesses to basically pay for like the things they needed to be like COVID friendly. Like, even like it was even like, essentials for like cleaning supplies, masks, covering, signage, anything you needed to kind of open up at the time. So those are that was a really interesting time in general, but that was a really cool grant that we kind of came up with, and we were able to give back to the businesses so they could reopen.
So we opened up our firm
Yeah.
in downtown St.
Yeah.
Charles during COVID.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that that's what we were doing because, we started right before the world shut down.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at businesses and trying to help them, are you constrained by this set of parameters? Are you able to be flexible with like the grants, the support that you're able to give? How does that work?
The grants are pretty like focused on the SSA, but then in general, the Alliance supports everyone in St. Charles. If you're in St. Charles proper, we support you. We like to say that like as soon as you open, you're in. You can opt out, but like our arms are around you. We are always working and hustling to even just find like a working email or a working phone call. Nate, who's on my team, it's his job to like reach out to a business when we first hear to that about them, go meet with them, introduce. We have like a one sheeter that's like all the things that we can do for you. And then just sort of getting them into the fold. I mean, just so that they know like what events are coming to town, what other businesses, if there's opportunities for them to like, we'll market them, put them in their newsletter, on the app, on the kiosks, like all those different things. Like an example of that was like, this is years ago, but I remember, and it's a past owner, but Small Cakes, the small cupcakery in downtown, they had opened, and we had a really hard time of getting in touch with the new owner. And we were like stopping by, we were emailing, we were Facebook messaging, anything we could do to try to reach out to them, just to get them like to be like, hey, things are coming up. And one of the high school parades was coming up, the high school homecoming parade. And, you have all these kids in downtown, and it was the first time they had seen Small Cakes. And they sold out of cupcakes by 10 a.m. And they were like, we had no idea. Da, da, da. And we're like, this is why we want our arms around you to be able to tell you. But like, it's also like at the time, it was like, they ended up being great and they're still here. But it's like a bummer for some kids to come in like an hour later and be like, you're out of cupcakes. This was my time. I wanted to try it, but had they known that we were going to have like an extra like 4,000, 5,000 people in the downtown, they would have maybe made more cupcakes. So it's like, that's why the small example, but like we like to say, we want to have our arms around you so that you know what's going on and you can reap and benefit as much as you can. And, kind of is the juice worth the squeeze of like figuring out like what is worth when our events are coming to town.
Well, I'm piggybacking on that. How do people find you?
Oh, so you can find us at stcalliance.org is our website. Follow us on all of our socials. Rachel on our team does an amazing job with all of our social media. She's super creative. We're on Instagram's kind of our bread and butter. Facebook, of course. We're on LinkedIn. All the normal channels but yeah, our website is kind of the hub of it all.
So back to the grant for just a minute. When you're in the SSA, you see you got your hands around everyone in the SSA, but also around St. Charles proper.
Yeah.
In the SSA for like the signage grant and these types of things, is it just restaurants and
first floor
service businesses? First floor businesses.
Yeah,
okay.
Typically it's first floor businesses. It's like really the first thing people see. We have a lot of second floor businesses that are like, when we need them, they're important and part of the downtown. They're a big fiber. They're the people who go to the restaurants and, take their clients to work and all that, or to lunch and stuff like that. But it's a first floor businesses is typically what we do. We've had other businesses reach out, especially like if it's a retailer on a second floor, which is rare. But we typically will stick to first floor restaurants, retail, anything that really brings in tourism, brings in people. We want to help beautify that.
Looking forward, is there anything that you can share with us about what's coming soon to St. Charles?
Well, I think most people know about Foxhaven Square. That to me is one of our biggest focuses right now, because we are, as you can tell kind of by our conversation, we are heavily focused on the downtown because that's where most of our events lie. But we do try to, put our arms around everyone. But this isn't a really exciting thing with Foxhaven Square. Simple EJ's is already open. Fire and Wine is open, and Rosebuds. I think it's going to be such a unique thing out there. I think this will draw in like more like bachelorette parties and girls' weekends and guys' weekends, especially like with all the different concepts out there. I think our hotels are excited as well, because I think that will impact in them in a positive way, and our short-term rentals as well. So I just, I think that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. And like, we're trying to get our head around marketing it as well, and how to market it. And then like, even during like Scarecrow, when we have this amazing event, like how do people tie there? But we also have to keep people downtown. So it's trying to keep everyone happy, which is always the root of it all.
Well, and just for location-wise, for geographically challenged people, like
Yes.
me, we're talking about east of downtown,
Yep.
but west of the mall.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
We're super excited about all that's coming there. I mean, when I saw just the little the street signage where they were listing all the places, I was like, really? We're going to get a Rosebud's? This is awesome.
I mean, I can't wait to see it up and running. And like the two businesses that are up and running right now, I mean, they've just been so nice to work with, so like accommodating, so like excited, so much energy. Like we just had Eric from EJ's on our podcast yesterday, 2 days ago. And I'm just like ball of energy. And like, we're like, okay. Like, so it's nice to see people that are excited about what they do, excited about what they're opening, and the passion. You know, we never try to yuck anyone's yum. So we're excited about when people are excited about their own.
So I think if I have my history correct, the EVB kind of came about as a part of like the Pheasant Run annexation into St. Charles.
The EVB.
The initial tax, the EVB.
Okay.
Acronyms
the Visitors
can be
Bureau,
tricky because
the visitors
they could be multiple
CVB,
things.
not
The CVB.
CVB.
I was like, did we pick up
EVB.
something?
I totally made something else up, Jenna.
I was like, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
But okay, CVB. Yes.
So if I think my history is correct, it
Yeah.
came in with Pheasant Run, and there was a push. Was Pheasant Run going to go to West Chicago or St. Charles? And then St. Charles gave them this incentive. But the Pheasant Run is gone now, right?
Yeah.
How has Pheasant Run kind of dying and leaving impacted, either for the good or the bad, the rest of St. Charles and the other hotels?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely had an impact. But I think all of our hotels that were there before Pheasant Run left are still there, and our occupancy is still great. We get what's called the Star Report, and so we are still thriving. A lot of it has to do with horse shows that are in Wayne. A lot of it has to do with sports shows or sports tournaments. We have a ton of weddings. So from what we're seeing, our occupancy is still really high. I'm sure a lot of people talk to me about the history, like you talked about the history, like when you were talking about the CVB and like the reason that
Not the
CVB
EVB,
existed, not that
CVB.
one. CVB. When the CVB, I think that was part of it, was like Pheasant Run was like, if we're going to come, you need a CVB. And I get most of my history from Steve Martin, like not the actor, but the local historian, I'll call him. He's one of our major volunteers, but he'll talk to you, can tell you about everything. But yes, I think that was part of it, was like, if we're going to come there and build there, you guys need a CVB. And so that was kind of part of why it existed at all. But yeah, I mean, I think we were all a little nervous about it, but I think with the Q Center doing so well and all of our other hotels doing so well, we've been able to hang tight and figure out and pivot as the word of the year when we were in COVID times, to figure out how to continue to drive people here and drive in tourism into St. Charles.
When you first came up from Southern Illinois,
Yeah.
Because everything south of I-80 is Southern Illinois, right?
Correct.
So
I mean, I
wait
say I'm from Central Illinois.
yes,
Wait a second. If I had said this, I would have gotten in trouble with you too. But he gets to say it now.
I'm making a joke, right?
Uh-huh.
So
I know.
yes,
Well, so there's a big beef at City Hall because Derek, he was our economic development director, and he is now our deputy city administrator. But he is from Southern Illinois, and I'm from Central Illinois. But people will be like, "You guys are both from Southern Illinois," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I went to school in Southern Illinois.
it's a really long state. We'll just put it that way. But so this is kind of a two-part question. What surprised you the most locally when you first moved up here about what was different than downstate? And has that changed over the years? What surprises you now going back? Like, why don't they have that downstate that they have here?
Yeah, it's interesting because my parents still live in Springfield. My brother still lives in Springfield and his family. My mom, I won't drag her, but she'll give me updates on what's going on in like downtown Springfield and stuff like that. And they don't have like what we have. We don't have that. They don't have an alliance. They don't have so any type of group that's really like full throttle pushing people in. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think Springfield, where I'm from, has so much possibility. And so, I mean, the downtown, I mean, the the library and the museum opened up when I was a senior in high school. And I remember, and maybe that's like was somehow into my fabric of being to like be like, let's develop our downtown. Like, and that's why it's gone into my adult life and my career. But like, it was such a shot in the arm for downtown Springfield. And I just remember thinking like all the tourism, the school buses, everything coming down there, going to the museums. I've had friends get married in the old state capitol. I've had friends get married at the Lincoln Museum. Like it's there's so much cool history in Springfield. I'm surprised they don't, continue to capitalize on it. They're the capital. There's a pun there somewhere.
Mhm.
But anyway, so that always sort of surprises me. But I just think we're so lucky in St. Charles. Like I look outside my window every day looking at the river, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like St. Charles has so much going on. And so like so when you hear people complain or like be unhappy, you're just like, oh, that's a bummer. You have no idea how amazing it is here. I think sometimes not being from the area is like, to me, what kind of keeps me maybe going is like, you guys have no idea how amazing it is. The Lifetime people, I think people like, again, Steve Martin knows how lucky and is like, I'm never leaving because why would you leave St. Charles? It's such an amazing community. But then I think sometimes people who come from the outside and like have their kids go to school here, the sports teams, the parks. Oh my gosh, our parks, how lucky are we? It's just amazing to see. And like they're all work in tandem, the school district and the park district. All the taxing bodies seem to like really, are aware of like of the caliber and like this is how we have a standard that we hold here in St. Charles. So
I think
yeah.
we're really lucky too. When you're talking about community, for sure, our community is wonderful, which is driven by the people
Yeah.
who live here are spectacular. But when we're looking at this community that we have, and also keeping in mind the three different cities, really,
Yeah.
I think that part of what makes it really better is that we're all a little bit competitive with each other. Like, oh, well, we have this. Well, then we need to go and maybe we need to up our game with that too. So when you're looking at St. Charles, what do you think is something that would be really spectacular to add into St. Charles or enhance in St. Charles?
I mentioned our parks and how amazing they are. And so, and I say that we're a gateway community, which means like kind of the definition of that is like we have this amazing river floating through our downtown. I would love to see it highlighted more. I just think we do already, and I think people come to visit the river. They come and there's the cyclists who go to Sammy's or to Pollyanna to do those rides, and then that demographic also loves the beer and they love fancy and they love like a nice meal and like there's a lot of like overlap in our demographics of all that. So I just would love to see continuing to highlight and our river and the amazing like wildlife and everything we have along the bike path. Like I just think that there's more to highlight there and more like that people could utilize. I think maybe a boats or we already have our amazing boat rides that the park district does, but I think there's more, and I think that we could utilize more in some capacities, and I just think there's probably more to come. I think there's a lot of rumblings.
When you're not just totally busy, pushing for St. Charles and everything, and you're just sitting in your office daydreaming, what are some of the things that you think up that could be done to push the river and the parks more?
I wish like a group would maybe come in, like a third party or a for-profit come in and maybe do some more like guided boat tours or kayak tours or stuff like that. I know like Aurora has a guy that does that. I met him a couple years ago, and I was like, come on down to St. Charles. Probably need a little bit more boat launch up, stuff like that. I know there's a lot of like rules and regulations. Nobody wants to be too close to the dam, which is a hot topic we won't get into. But I do think that there's just even more tourism on the river in general. I think our restaurants, looking out into the river, I just think utilizing those patios. I see things like Maple Leaf Coffee Shop. They built out that beautiful patio in their back. And they're like a bike-friendly coffee shop. Like they seem to kind of have understood like what community that they're in. And so to see more of our community sort of kind of grasp onto that. One of our big pushes this year is our bikeability, walkability pushes. So we've been giving out bike bells, helping get the news out for the city. They have some new ordinances. And we've worked with all the other taxing bodies to kind of just get the word out about like how bikeable our city really is. I would just like to see that continue to grow. Like a lot of businesses for like not very much can become a bicycle certified business, bike-friendly certified business. I just think those are easy things to then you get on a map. And then, like, we have so many cyclists, as you guys know, like running up and down the river. I just think there's a lot of opportunities there to continue to highlight how much of like a walkable, bikeable community that we are.
One of our prior guests mentioned how fishable the river is. And, every now and again you see some folks fishing in the river, but it doesn't really kind of, I think, hit you as much. And it's usually below the dam between St. Charles and Geneva is where they're fishing. But I think that something along with kayaking, maybe some fishing guides from time to time, and I don't know how prevalent it is, but I mean, it sounds like people are pulling some fish out of the river. That could be an interesting way to get some more people interjected into the city.
Yeah, I've had a local developer tell me there's a honey hole in St. Charles. I mean, he won't tell me where, but for fish. And I just, I agree. I think, like, when we first merged, there's a lot of like low hanging fruit, like of course, like the La Plaza or like, things that were very like popular. But like, to me, now we're at a point at the Alliance where we can be like, what else is like tier 2, tier 3 of bringing in people? And I think that's one of them. Absolutely. Like the river itself and fishing, like, do we have this amazing undercurrent that we didn't know about? Could that be like, could there be tours of like fisherman tours? I know there's already bird tours, like people are coming and looking at the different birds along the river, like the birders of the world. That's a whole thing. I think it's after 40, you either like you get like into birding, or they say like sourdough, or there's a couple other things you get into. So yes, I think that there's a lot of, now we can start looking at sort of like those, like maybe lesser, but still niche specialties that St. Charles has.
Well, and to bring in people who are maybe going to come from out of town, stay at the hotels.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the resources, as far as being able to see what some of these opportunities are in the area, is that something that we can find on the website?
Yeah. So we have like a whole, like as far as outdoor, we have a whole dedicated outdoor page. That was one of our big pushes a couple years ago. Again, like in collaboration with the Park District, which like Holly and her team over there are just top notch. Just I've learned so much from her and everyone everyone on her team. And we worked with them, and we have a bike map that we recently pushed out. But all those resources to kind of explore St. Charles on all of our parks, you can find all that. It's like if you go to like stcalliance.org/outdoors, I think is what you'll find it on. But yeah, we love our outdoors in St. Charles, and I would say that the suburbs in general are really great at like the second it's like 60 degrees and sunny, we're outside. Which I think is kind of special to the suburbs. Like, I don't remember that growing up like in central Illinois, like, but people here are like, it's short season, like the second it's above 60. But
which might happen in February. We can hope.
I know. There was a really warm day this year in February. I have like a photo of my kids like in t-shirts outside. I'm like, what is this? But yeah. Then we had a cold snap a couple weeks ago in July. So just never know.
So besides what we think about, off the top of our head, Arcata, the parks, the restaurants, what's one thing in St. Charles that people might not realize is there that's really drawing people to the city?
I think we have an amazing live music scene, and we have such amazing artists, like local talented artists. We have one of our programs that we do is called STC Live and Unwind Wednesday, where we put live music all over town, but also on the plaza. And it's musicians, and they're amazing musicians that we have. And our number, we were always checking our analytics on our website and Placer and all the data stuff that we have. And our number one thing people look at is live music, and then Mexican food. But just to keep on live music, it is amazing that people are always looking for live. So we do a really good job of keeping that up to date, but people love live music. And I think there's a connection there. There's I want to get out. I want to see people, that community. Who am I going to see out on the plaza type vibe? So I think that's one of the things that we have going on that is like, maybe it's starting to build. We have Unwind Wednesday, which now we started it before COVID, and then we had just brought it back last year. So what it is you can, in the plaza, you can get a wristband, and you can, for the night on Wednesday evenings, you can listen to music and have a drink or a cocktail from one of the 5 businesses. That's Alter, La Mesa, Giamia, McNally's, or Zaza's. I think that's kind of a really cool thing. It's starting to build up. I've seen people now like bringing their, camping chairs, and the kids are dancing. It's just sort of growing, and we're keeping an eye on and the numbers keep going up. So that's really fun to watch. So another thing that we have coming up that people might not know about. So we are so lucky to have 6 local breweries in St. Charles. So we have for the last 6 years we've done the brewery tour. You can go to all 6 of our breweries. If you go to all of them, you get a shirt that has all the breweries on the back. Very cool. But every year they started this on their own. We do a thing called the STC Six, which is a collaborative beer that all 6 of the breweries come together and work on. And they give a portion of the proceeds to a local nonprofit. And this year they picked the St. Charles History Museum. And because St. Charles, I didn't know this till recently, has a very Belgium history. Didn't know, but we do. And so all of our local breweries are making their own Belgian style beers. And so for like the month of August, you'll be able to go to any of the breweries and try their Belgian style, and you can vote. And at the end, there'll be like an award given out at Pollyanna's Blues and Brews event that they do at the end of August. So that's kind of a cool thing. I love that collaboration over competition vibe that St. Charles has, especially with our breweries. And we track every week, like how many people come and do it. And we're still having like in the teens weekly, people are still doing the beer tours. So it's really exciting for us. And we probably need to order more shirts. So
I feel like breweries is one of those, it's almost kind of like lawyers. Lawyers, we kind of compete, but we help one another. But if you have a lot of breweries together, that's going to drive more people to that area because they want to try. If you're a brewery person, you want to try different beers, kind of what you want to try usually, right?
You can make a whole day of it, and you can go to all of ours breweries or 2 days or whatever. We always tell people like, you don't have to go to all of them in one day to get the shirt. You can go over months. But I think you're 100% right with that. I think people are like, I'm going to go to St. Charles because there's 6 breweries for me to go and check out. And if the one isn't for me, then this one might be. And they're all so different. Like none of them are any like, they're all doing different stuff. We have the nano breweries all the way to Alter, who's doing, they've got food and they've got every type of beer you could ever think of. And so, Pollyanna's doing all sorts of like award-winning dark beers, and Riverlands are like, I feel like Riverlands are like the mad scientists over there doing all sorts of like funky sours and all sorts of cool stuff. So, and the home brew shop, Broken Bricks. I mean, Ed and his son Mike, they know everything about beer you could ever want. And then Brother Chimp, who's our new guy in town, like they just have fit in right away, and we're so lucky to have. They're like a motley fun crew. 93 Octane too. They all just come in, and it's really fun to see them all like make a beer together too. It's like they're just all a bunch of beer nerds, like talking about hops, and like it's 8 a.m. but cool, it's top time.
So I want to get into your events, but first I want to talk. The beer thing made me think of this. So before COVID, and I don't know if the Alliance was involved with this or not, but the Rotary Club put on like that beer tasting event in Lincoln Park, and that happened like for 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
I thought it was really well attended. Is there any thought about trying to bring something like that back to St. Charles?
So like typically, like we don't have so the Business Alliance, we don't have a liquor license. Most of our events are beer like free or liquor free, like especially like Scarecrow. Those are family friendly events. So when events like that work, that's usually like a group come in, like the Rotary does that, and then they make money. And they usually bring in an outside help to kind of have the contacts, the beer contacts, stuff like that. So it's typically like a fundraiser for a group like that. I agreed. It was a great event. I don't know why. I think it's also a lot of work. I think people underestimate how much something like that takes, the manpower you need, the volunteer hours you need. So we haven't thought about that at this point. Like we're at capacity with how many events we do, like, because again, we'll talk about them, but the amount of events we do, like I couldn't ask my staff to come in any more weekends than they already do. But yeah, no, I think those events are great. And I think one of the things that people aren't maybe as patient as they could be with it, like I was just talking to Carrie, who's the new director over the chamber, about how I think you have to be a little patient with events. I really do think there's like a 7-year kind of wait. Like it takes time for things to go. You learn so much the first and second year, and then it's word of mouth, and then you're tweaking it. And I think it's like the 7th year is sort of when you're like, okay, this is not working, or it is working. And I think sometimes nonprofits in particular tend to jump ship right away. But I think you just kind of have to give it time to build and give it a little and stick with it a little bit longer. At least that's what's happened in our experience.
So going into your events, can you give us your kind of a rundown on the events that you do?
Yes. So all the major events that's kind of under our umbrella, and they've come under our umbrella over the years, and then we do a couple small ones as well. So as far as the major events, we always kick off the year with the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We do Restaurant Week as well, which is a little bit smaller of an event for us. But then we do the Fine Art Show, We do STC Live and Unwind Wednesday, which we mentioned. We have Jazz Weekend. A smaller one we do is the BU Rock Hunt, which was a COVID thing where we have kids run all over downtown looking for rocks like the BU that look like the BU sculpture in the downtown. Super competitive to the point where people follow my staff at 7 a.m. where they're hiding the rocks.
No.
And they're all found by like 10 a.m. Yes, it's crazy. And we've had people fight over these rocks. But anyways, we also do Scarecrow, which we inherited from the CVB back in 2019. And then we do the Christmas Parade, which is my favorite. The electric Christmas Parade, lighting of the lights, all that stuff. Holiday Homecoming is by far my favorite event.
I'm always impressed by the people that end up putting their chairs out at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And I mean, the street is full well before the parade starts.
Yeah. It's always interesting when it's a windy day too. And you're like watching the chairs go down Main Street and you're like, okay, I hope that wasn't worth much. Yeah, people are crazy. They'll get down there before I'm down there. And I'm down there really early before every event. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people have these all. Somebody woke up early and lined the streets with their chairs and blankets. And pretty cool.
So I found it interesting what you said just prior that it takes about 7 years to figure out if an event's going to work. Mm-hmm. And in not-for-profit land, that's kind of a long time. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 2 or 3 board cycles in many instances.
Yeah, sometimes.
And, you've got board members looking at these budgets and, after-event analysis and everything else. What's the hardest thing or maybe the most challenging thing about convincing the people you're trying to convince, the board members, the city, and everything else that there's something in an event, we need to stick with it and see if it's there? What's the hardest part about that?
I think it is. I think it's analytics. You have to be able to see that, highlight the positives that are there or the positive trajectory that is there. Like, for instance, Jazz Weekend is always one of those I was always sort of like, not wary of, but just sort of like keeping my eye on but what we've watched is more businesses participate, more people booking bands, the positive feedback we get, the participation D303, we have the churches participate in Jazz Weekend. Like, it's not just the businesses. We have we have retailers participate. So if you kind of have to take those positive things. It's like, okay, well, we had maybe less participating restaurants, but we had more bands booked and more high caliber bands, and you just have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of every event. When we did the merger, I had to go through do a SWOT analysis of every single event, every single program. And I think that was really helpful, and to just really see and be able to see the hard numbers of we had more people. Did we have more people attending? Because we have Placer AI too, which is super helpful. So if okay, there's more people coming, but there's less events, it still means people want it. So you have to really look at that holistically from a big perspective. It's hard to look at a P&L and to be able to tell the whole story. And so you kind of have to be able to lead your board or your volunteers to be able to help them understand. Obviously, there's some things that need to go away because they've lived their life cycle too. But I do think you have to give things a fair shot.
And I think when you put the 7-year parameter on there, that helps a lot, because if one year's weather is bad
100%.
or it's a funny weekend or a funny time, to be able to recognize, hey, this is a timing issue. This isn't.
And we've done that, but with Restaurant Week, one time it was too close to winter break, or it was too close to Lent. We've learned that the hard way. Or if it's too close to right after Christmas, people are tightening up. So it's you just have to be things you're you look at the calendar at the beginning of the year and you're yeah, here, that's a great week. And then you have to tweak it. And we've tweaked Restaurant Week so many times based on feedback from the restaurants. When's a slow time? It's typically done in a slow time for restaurants in the dead of winter, when people aren't really going out. But you have to be careful. You can't have it too close to January 1st when people are tightening their belts or literally trying to go to the gym and not eat out as much. You have to be far enough removed from that, but it can't be too close to Lent. It can't be too close to Valentine's Day, because then they don't want people go out full throttle usually on Valentine's Day, so you don't want the discount too close. So there's so much logistics that go into figuring that stuff out.
Well, and Jenna, I'm sure one of your favorite sponsors is the Feagans Law Group, because I know we sponsor several of your events.
Absolutely.
And what I find intriguing about what we get back from that is you guys do a great job of talking to your sponsors and saying, hey, this was Jazz Weekend, this was Restaurant Week, this was what have you. This is what happened in St. Charles in that week. I mean, you give us numbers about people. Where does all that come from?
So my staff is just amazing. And Laura, who does our sponsorship, is really really good at knowing what our sponsors want and the information that they need. Our goal with every sponsors, and one of the things that she's really good at doing is finding like, what's your goal? Are you trying to get people to go to your website? Or you just want people to see your logo? And then kind of working backwards from there, and then working with the marketing team and working with the events team, which I said before, like we just have such an amazing team. And but we use things like Placer AI, which I mentioned, to be able to tell how many people are there. We use Facebook Analytics, Google Analytics, all of the, if we are putting something in ad, like for an event, like in a paper, we get all that data back from them before we even will place the ad. Like we are always testing, because we're a 501c3 with a smaller, like not the largest budget in the world. We're always making sure everything is like worth the while. We're not just throwing money at like a random publication. It has to be worth it. It has to hit our demographic, and we are very, very strict about like wanting our brand to be aligned with the brands that are bringing in people. So yeah, so we use Placer. We use, like I said, the Star Report, which is the hotel report. And it's all those things kind of combined to be able to give people the numbers to show you the impressions. And it's like a great way. And it's why Laura has does such a great job of retaining our sponsors. But she'll be the first to tell you that it's a trickle down, right? She'll book the sponsor, but then it's the marketing team that makes the posters, the rack cards, the ads look so good. And it's the events team who is executing all of that to make sure that, like, if we promise that you're going to have a banner walking down the street, well, we work with the Boy Scouts to make sure that there's a banner walking down the street. There's a lot of legwork, a lot of logistics that goes into making, it's like a spider web to make it all happen.
If someone is thinking about opening a business in St. Charles right now, what is something that you would like to tell them or have them know?
Derek and Brianna at the city, that's sort of like, they're the go to them first, because they obviously know all the ins and outs. But, I would say, like, if you're thinking about opening up a business in St. Charles, look around, like do your market research about what we're lacking or what we're missing. Like, there's this report, which is my least favorite word in the word, but the leakage report, and it will tell you what we don't have or what people are leaving St. Charles for to get. So that would be something, like we have, like I mentioned, people love Mexican restaurants in St. Charles. We have 16 of them. So, and we have what's called the Tortilla Tour. And if you go to 3 of them, you can get a free hot sauce that we worked with Guindos on. So we have a tour for everything. But people love Mexican. I mean, like I said, people love Mexican food. It's the number one food thing that's Googled. We have all those analytics. But, I would just do your research, make sure it's a niche or something that we need. I do think people, our demographic, which we lovingly call our like main demographic, Downtown Debbie. So she's like the 42-year-old mom who has 2.5 kids. She's a decision maker. She's got the purse strings. And that's who, and we always are looking for like, what does she like to do? Well, she looks at reviews. She uses Facebook and Instagram heavily. And we have our type tiers, our second tiers, third tiers as well. But Debbie is our main like consumer and the person who's mostly looking at all of our stuff. And I would say, is Debbie going to go to your business? Because that would be something to look at. Like we were just talking before we started about the new sauna place, Persona, that's opening up on First Street. I'm like, I think Debbie might like it.
I think Debbie would be all in. Yes.
So, So I think that I would look at what we are lacking. People, Debbie, again, wants experiences for her kids, for her family, for herself. So I would say make it an experience. I think that's why like Rocket Fizz does so well. I mean, you can buy candy at the grocery store, but going to Rocket Fizz is an experience.
Well, I mean, a chocolate-covered scorpion?
Yes, you need it.
Yes.
My kids definitely need it.
Ours do too.
Yes.
I mean, they've told us this repeatedly.
But it's why they do well. And because it's an experience. People want an experience. They want something unique, something that, you can't do everywhere else. And I think we have a lot of that in St. Charles. And I just say, if you're looking to open up a business, add to that.
I think we got to build out this Downtown Debbie persona, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think she needs her own caricature. She needs to be on your social media. Downtown Debbie's got some play here.
Yes. Yeah. I think we went down rabbit holes a couple years ago where we had like Downtown Taylor and Travis, which was like, the 18 to 25-year-olds too. And we made the grandparents' names. I can't remember. It might be like Cindy and Stu for like, but yes, Downtown Debbie. I always say this is kind of who we're talking to. And I really think that a lot of people when they're marketing their bar, their restaurant, their new retail place, whatever, look at who you're who your demographic, who you want it to be, and then kind of walk backwards, right? Like, what you could Google, like, what does the average 40-year-old woman utilize as far as social media? And they'll tell you, they'll rank it for you. And, or what are, and that, so we really try to utilize that, and it works for us. And we try to strike where the iron's hot as far as, we know that, we know that that's what they like. This is the type of, and we always are looking at our analytics and being like, yes, people are clicking on this. People like when there's types of photos. They like it when there's like kids in the photos. They like it when it says family friendly. Like there's all those kind of like, clickbaity things or things that people want to know about. So yeah, Debbie.
So we're sitting down here with Jenna Sawicki talking about Downtown Debbie and the St. Charles Business Alliance. If you like what you're hearing, please make sure you follow us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Jenna, you mentioned something just briefly like a moment ago, the leakage report.
Oh.
I've never heard of a leakage report. What is this and where does one find it?
I'm sure you could Google it. But Derek Conley, who I mentioned earlier, who works for the city, he was the one who introduced it to me. And it was really eye-opening to be able to look at that report to see. And it was like a lot of retail, obviously, because we have there were outlet malls where people are going shopping. We also have the Geneva Commons, which people are, so that was an eye-opening for us. So we love retail here. We, of course, want people to open up retail, but we also understand that that's a tough one for us to try to grab from those two places. But yeah, so he sort of showed it. He showed it to me early when he first started. And I think it's been one of those reports that we kind of go back to consistently to be like, what are we lacking here? And I think for him, that probably is good for his job when he's talking to potential businesses, and for us too, to be like, again, we have X amount of these types of restaurants. Oh, we don't have this type of restaurant. So that'd be a great thing. We don't have enough of this, or we have too much of this. It is always good to give that data to people who are potentially opening up a business in St. Charles, because we want everyone to succeed. We sort of think of I remember Chris Wolfer, who was my past president before Kimberly Mercado, who's my current president, on my board. He was there during the merger and everything. And I remember him sort of saying economic development is sort of the hunter. They're going out and they're getting the business. And then as far as the alliance's job is we're kind of like the farmer. We're here to make sure that business stays open. We get them under our wing. We're growing, we're watering them, we're feeding them, trying to get them to stay open. That's our whole goal. We do so much retention visits. We're always constantly going out to the businesses to talk to them. It's sort of one of those things, we do all the events, we do the marketing, but keeping our ear to the ground is so important. And just listening to our businesses a lot of the time. And we can a lot of times fix things where people are upset about okay, well, yeah, we can feature that, or we can twist this or whatever, because we're a nonprofit and our hands aren't as tied as a city would be. They have, so many more. They'd have to bring it. They have to get 3 quotes and bring it before council. We can sort of make things pivot a little bit easier as a 501c3.
What do you think the thriving businesses in St. Charles have in common?
I think it's a lot of the collaboration, and I think it's the openness, the willing to participate, and I think not having blinders on. I think if they're talking to their neighbors, they're collaborating with their neighbors. I love, I hear things like Graceful Ordinary has beer from all the different breweries in town. I mean, nothing's more. And Kimmer's Ice Cream is in a couple different restaurants in St. Charles. I mean, I think the collaborators are the ones who are really doing well. I mean, I've watched Kimmer's. When Kimmer's opened, I was working at ALE, and I remember, because she and I are about the same age. Our kids are about the same age. So it's been really fun to watch her and Isaac just thrive. And one of the best things that they do is they are always collaborating. They're finding out ways to get involved with the schools, the park districts. I mean, I watch the breweries do it too. Riverlands, Pollyanna, they all do it. They collaborate with the nonprofits, Adopt-A-Pets, all those things. I think people that get involved with the community, there's a loyalty there. If you adopted your dog at Pollyanna, you're going to bring the dog back to enjoy their brand new patio. So, yeah.
So just to put a pin in it, the leakage report can be found with the city, though, right?
It's my least favorite word.
But that report,
I think it's a Google. I think
a Google thing. Okay.
I don't think it's a city. I don't
so
think
the city doesn't compile it.
No,
it's
no,
just
no.
out
It's
there somewhere.
It's an outside group. I didn't even know it existed.
Me
so,
either, which is why I'm so curious about it.
Yeah.
And so when you give an attorney something he doesn't know about, he just continues
There
to
you
ask
go.
questions about
Yes,
it, right?
100%. I understand. Yeah.
So, that's awesome. So Katie and I have always thought, and we've said this before too. We're in an area, the Tri-Cities, where you can market as much as you want. You can have a website, you can put ads in the paper and everything else, but the best tool is getting involved in the community, having other people talk about you and
Oh,
then say
yeah.
hey to their neighbor. You need to go to grab a beer at Pollyanna, or hey, you were in a car accident, you go to Feagans Law Group, or hey, whatever. And so I think that's what's unique about our area in that way. Turn it on its head a little bit. What's something that you wish St. Charles had from a perspective of something maybe Geneva or Batavia does really, really well?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, we were so lucky to have such amazing neighbors. I think Geneva's Third Street, is amazing. The walkability on the Third Street, so amazing. And they have all that retail, which, everyone is, hungry to have, but that's what makes them them. They're this like retail and so special. You kind of have that. You can stroll along Third Street and really like check out everything. Batavia is such an entrepreneurial spirit. You just go down there and there's a vibe down there. Their farmers market's amazing. So I think that those are things that they're really doing well. But that's what all makes us like, like what, cousins, but not like sisters. But we're all complimentary of each other. Like I said, like St. Charles, like we really have that like active nightlife, the outdoors. Like we have all that kind of stuff. So, but I think we all kind of share this like energy of the river and energy of like, these businesses that have been there, a lot of businesses that have been there a long time. And I just think we're very lucky to have such thriving neighbors, and it's like I said, like I'm not sure if the average person knows it when they're going to one to the other. I think I see stuff sometimes marketing, like there'll be outside groups that will like maybe market like a retail or like a shop crawl or something like that. And I'll look at the map and it's all three of towns. It's Batavia, it's Geneva, it's St. Charles. And obviously they think it's easy enough to bop around to these places. And I think the average citizen probably is like not really sure where they're at all times either. So
I think you hit it right there exactly on the head when you said it's the goodwill, right? And I think that that's what people feel in our area, and it's being fostered and encouraged by the Business Alliance, by the business owners, and by our community. And I think that that makes us all feel really connected,
yeah.
and that's amazing. What is your thought as far as, okay, so we have this business alliance and we are growing and we're bringing on all of this new. What are some of the business alliance members? Is that what we call them, or what do you?
We just everyone's all the businesses that are, I guess, in the city. Yeah, we don't really say members, but yeah, just all of us, I guess.
Okay, so
Well, you don't have to pay anything to become part of
No,
the business alliance. If
absolutely
you're a
not.
business in St. Charles, you're in.
You're
right?
in, yeah.
And that's the C3 part of it.
Yes.
And when you look at the C6 side of it,
Right.
there's a membership organization. That's the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So maybe explain a little bit. I think what Katie's driving at.
Oh, sure.
Explain a little bit the differences as to where the chamber comes in and where the business alliance stops, and how you guys work together.
Sure. Absolutely. So, to break it down like as like easily as I can, I would say like the chamber is more B2B. They're there, their education, their legislature, their membership support. So they're there to really like introduce. They have those amazing mixers where the businesses can meet each other and maybe like create a relationship that is great for both sides. That's really where they're sort of like building this business community. And I would say we're more B2C, so business to consumer, where we're trying to market that business to the public, to the person, and driving those people into St. Charles. So, I mean, that's the simplest way I can break it down. I just met with Carrie, the new chamber director. She's lovely, and she's very excited. And I'm excited to see what we're able to do collaborative wise. And I know that they're already going to be having a booth at Scarecrow. They're going to help us with the Paint the Pumpkin, and it's going to be a great way for them to try to showcase, what kind of an amazing organization they are and how collaborative they are. They're going to have their volunteers out there. So that's just a start, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come of collaboration.
What has surprised you the most in your years here in St. Charles?
Um, I think people's passion online maybe has been very surprising to me. Um, their alderperson Jamie Munns, who's our liaison for our board, she coined to us the term the "Why don't you just people." So there's a lot of like armchair experts or people that are just like, "Why don't you just do this?" And I think there's a lack of people understanding how much work and logistics and money and time and negotiations that go into all we do. And people forget sometimes that the internet is a pen, not a pencil. And we'll put some wild things on there. But yeah, so I think that surprises me kind of how like harsh people can be at times. But it also is very passionate. Like the community is so passionate. We have like our volunteers are amazing. And I'm surprised by how much people care sometimes, but it's amazing. Like I think St. Charles is special in the how much people will care about a certain thing or certain program or certain initiative.
The volunteers, you've mentioned them a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do, and how do you become one?
So our volunteers do everything from like day of events, like where they're just working an info booth, and then there's our volunteers who are on our executive board, who I talk to every day, twice a day. That's John Hughes. Anyways, they and everywhere in between, right? We have people on our committees. We have a marketing and promotions committees, which is mostly full of like our retailers and restaurateurs that come in and give us ideas before anything goes out to the public. We have our business development sales committee that is a lot of like brokers and bankers and all sorts of things that all come in, and it's like they're thinking from the perspective like of what is the experience a business is having in St. Charles. Or have our events committee, which is mostly like it's the Steve Martins of the world, the Darlene Reeves, the Jan Wilsons, people who've been doing this for like 30 years. Steve Martin runs the parades at the top of the hill, and he starts the parades. That's his job. So we have people from all ages and all abilities and strengths and weaknesses that all come together. To put on Scarecrow, we need like 200 volunteers. And that includes like Boy Scout groups. And it's all those logistics of like, we need help cleaning up afterwards because people don't realize people means trash and toilets. So you have to have all that stuff. And we have like a volunteer Boy Scout group that comes in and helps us at the end. And then we have a cheerleading group that comes and helps count up the ballots during Scarecrow. So there's so many groups and people that come in and help. And we are so lucky. And I would say like our most, we do a volunteer appreciation luncheon every year. And it is one of my favorite events we do. And it's a chance to kind of give back and just say thank you to our volunteers. We're not selling them anything. It's like we usually give them a little treat. There's usually music. And it's just a thank you because we really couldn't do anything we do without our volunteers. It's our special sauce, we say.
So you've been in your seat for a little over 10 years or so now. Looking ahead 10 years, what does St. Charles look like? What's something that you can prophesize that this is going to happen? It's going to be amazing.
I think hopefully it's still thriving the way it is. I mean, if you look at like we have such a great occupancy rate downtown. We're in the like mid 90s, which is amazing and unheard of in the downtown. And I would like to just kind of see that sprawl out throughout the entire St. Charles. Just like to see full storefronts. I like to see interesting businesses opening that make people want to drive here and vacation here and stay the night here. I think continuing on the trajectory of what we've got going. That's a lot of what City Council has to do right now. They've got some big decisions to make, and I don't envy them. I listened to Ryan come on here, and I was like, oh yeah, you got some stuff going on, but. I hope it's just as thriving and it's just as beautiful, and we're utilizing the river as much and if not more. So I just hope it's still doing as well and if not better.
I think it's a unique opportunity because you've got a town that's already doing so well in an area that's doing so well, but there are such opportunities for the next stage. Hot topic buttons like what are we going to do with the police station, right? Now that the east side's starting to fold out with the new development down there, how does the east side really start to come back? And what happens with the mall that we always talk about for the last, these are challenges, but they're also opportunities. And in the next 10 years, I think people like you are going to help us figure out what those opportunities look like more.
I think it's always good to be a little aspirational in like your planning. Like when we're looking at our roadmap ahead and our, strategic planning, it's always like, who do we want to be? When we rebranded the organization before we even merged, we rebranded, I think, in 2017. And we worked with a group that was a branding group. And one of the things that's always stuck with me that they said is branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that has always stuck with me. And so I always think with all of our marketing, with everything that we're putting out to the community, it's a little aspirational. Like we're always making it, shiny, or always showcasing the amazing things we have. Of course, our community has just as, the same amount of like bumps and bruises as every other community, but like, this is where we want to be. This is where we want to go. We want to be known as the bikeable, walkable town. We're going to promote all the bikeable walkability until we get there. And I think that's a big part of our job, is to be a little aspirational on our roadmap of where we're going. And so like we want to bring in like great restaurants and great retail and amazing, community, more community members. I mean, look at our D303 is such an amazing school district. I just think it's just continuing to highlight the amazing entities we have in St. Charles.
That's awesome. Jenna, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It was a great conversation. Again, if you liked what you heard, come and follow us, subscribe to us on podcasts or Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Jenna, if someone wants to get a hold of you directly, I know they can contact the Business Alliance, but is there any better way to get a hold of you directly?
You can just reach out on our website. All of our names and all of our emails are on there, so you can just go to the staff tab and reach out to me directly. We're always trying to improve. We're always trying to make things better for St. Charles. So I think that's the best way. And volunteer. If you want to make a difference, volunteer. That's the best way.
All right. Wonderful, Jenna. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna.